at the end of the day, the buck stops with you in your life, and you have to figure out what kinds of things are going to make you happy. So for instance, I mentioned love and marriage. Like, do you want to maximize for resources? Then that's actually the traditional way of marriage is that you marry because of your merging economic resources to maximize your ability to have the most resources. And sure, you get two people with $250,000 incomes. That's a hell of a nice life right there, right? Mm-hmm. So do that, and then don't worry about kids or get $5 million in the bank and then get a nanny and you're like stuff like that. Like, you could do that, but then when you're mating, you're finding your match. You're prioritizing that, and you may be deprioritizing romantic love. Mm-hmm. And what is romantic love, and how does that come about?
That's something that's revealingly absent from the discussion, like theories of attraction in relationships. If you look at especially things targeted towards men,
it's about maximizing sexual partners almost. A lot of
it. Somebody sent a comment to one of the places ARI posted my article. These comments on it. And it was, well, what about this guy? This guy's not like that, this red pill guy. And I watched a video of this guy he talked for 2 hours and the title of the video was something like Love, Sex, and Marriage. And he didn't talk about love at all. It was all a sexual relationship as a kind of transaction, that his advice was that a woman to keep a man should be the sluttiest version of herself. And this guy has a PhD not a PhD, a PsyD. He's a psychologist.
PsyD?
PHY. PsyD. It's a different kind of doctorate. PsyD. Okay. Like there's medical doctorate. Anyway, and he's a kind of guy giving advice to men and, women also. And at no point did he say anything about any love, romantic attraction. It was all just a transactional view of.
Yeah.
And, I'm all for thinking about a relationship as a kind of trade, but there's a difference between trade and transaction. So he's thinking of it as like, you give sex and he gives resources. And like, that's the whole framework.
Well, it's purely material trade.
But I mean, material trade can, think about a friendship. So part of a friendship is doing material things for your friend. Like, can you give me a ride to the airport?
Sure.
And like, if you ask your friend for material help, nothing major, over and over again, and they say no every time, and you're doing things to help them, there's something
I'm not denigrating material. I'm saying like, I guess that's all I mean by
the transaction.
Like
by transaction,
a trade can be material, but the trade could also be just a conversation where we're enjoying ourselves.
Transaction is more like a one-for-one view of it. So these dollars for this product, this amount of sex for this amount of
that's called a process.
Relationship stability. Yeah. So that's what I mean by transactional. I think that's not the right way to think about the trade that occurs in.
There is.
I mean, some relationships are literally transactional. Like, you get paid a certain salary to do certain things for your employer. That's literally transactional. But there are non-transactional trades that people engage in all the time, like friendship and romance, and parent-child is a kind of trade. Each partner gets something out of the relationship. It's something different, radically different. And a mentor and a mentee, like there's a trade there. It's not transactional in the sense of, you need to give me this much mentorship if you expect me to improve this, this amount. You can't think of it that way. That's the wrong way to think about it. So that's what I mean by a transactional view of the relationship. So it's right to think about it as a trade. Like, what does she get out of it? Like, this is one of the things that's missing from a lot of advice for men in dating, where it's
one-sided in terms of what they get out of it.
Yeah,
it's clear what I get out of the beautiful woman. What does she get out of it?
Why would she want to date you? Like, there's this attitude like, society's unjust because I'm owed. Like, this is more the incel kind of thing. Like, you're just owed a woman, and you don't have one, and therefore there's something wrong with the world. It's like, no, what do you have? Like, she needs to get something from you. You don't want just any woman. You want one that you find valuable, attractive, etc.
And that takes a lot of work to really realize that. I think, though, I don't know.
to
Like,
realize that as
well, because
and
you
not
think of
just-
yourself as a good person.
Yeah.
Internally,
You think of yourself.
you're like, I'm wonderful. If you know, like I remember.
Well, I mean,
being
not
this-
everybody does. Some people are.
That's true. There's unfortunately some of that. But I guess I remember when I was young, teenager, whatever, and I would have another breakup or whatever. Like, and I was like, if only she got to know me or see me here or something like that. Like I had that kind of, spiral going into she just didn't get to know me, or she didn't, because I thought of myself as really amazing. But the reality was that I wasn't, there was some, maybe not with that particular woman, but just there's something you're not offering, or if you don't realize you're not projecting properly, or you think you're projecting, but you're not really projecting it this way.
One of the things that happens is as you get older, and especially if you stay single and like get experience, and you have you actually grow in what you understand, is I think you'll find that you're better at picking out somebody who will respond to your advances. Because it's not.
That's the big mistake.
When you're
every woman you talk to is your
when
future wife.
when you're a teenager,
she
or if you
smiled
don't,
at me. Like,
if you don't mature,
yeah.
if you don't mature, there's kind of like you kind of fall in love a little bit with every girl who's nice to you.
Yeah, exactly.
And
which
you
turns some women into like cynics about men.
Yeah,
right? It's like,
yeah.
oh my god, another one of these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a song that has a line that's something like, I secretly in love with everyone I grew up with. Something. It's the band The National has this. It's like,
which I get that.
That's a kind of immaturity, and it's fine to be immature when you're 14, 15, 16. But like at some point,
I was like 20.
At some point,
I was
you
a
get
late
less,
bloomer.
at some point, it gets less and less
you
excusable.
start to learn it.
But and hopefully you start to learn, and then like it's because part of the thing you think about is, well, what kind of woman do I want, and what kind of woman would want the kind of guy I am, and then you get better at just finding the positive to your negative charge, kind of.
Yeah.
And when you're younger, it's just this generalized thing. I want a girlfriend, and like, what kind of girl do you want?
Especially if you're
a
pretty outcast,
one,
like loner, and you don't talk to people in general, and then you definitely don't talk to women, and then you're basically falling in love with an idea of a person, of who she is, not who she is, which I think is also part of maturing.
Yeah, but that's
figuring out,
and that's where that's where like infatuations come from.
Yeah,
it's like, well, she's pretty and she's nice to me, so she must be, and then you invent this whole story about who she really is, and just not that person. Yeah. So one of the things that's missing from a lot of this advice for young men is like, helping them develop that kind of perspective. Or that kind of, not perspective, that kind of method of self-improvement. And that's why, like I say in the article, a lot of the I call it common sense kind of advice and this is the advice I would give to young guys. Like, there are certain high reward, easy things to do, comparatively easy things to do, that you can start with, that'll both actually get you positive responses from women, but it'll also get you in the mode of thinking about, like, what do they actually like? What do I have to offer? What do they actually want from me? And that's why things like being, learning to be more social, getting in shape is a big one. Learning to just kind of present yourself in a better way, and I don't mean becoming like the best dressed guy in every room or something, but like learning that maybe your faded Simpsons t-shirt and your gym shorts are not what you should wear to social gatherings if you're trying to meet someone. Like, maybe you should not have greasy hair all the time. Like that kind of thing, like, is
low-hanging fruit.
Low-hanging fruit. Now some of those things, like becoming more social and going to the gym and getting in shape, are not like low-hanging fruit. They take a lot of effort. But it's especially getting in shape is not psychologically painful and difficult the way maybe becoming more social is.
Yeah.
And it's the sort of thing that if you do it right, once it becomes noticeable, has a really strong feedback loop. That's why it's one of my favorite early advice. Like, what's the first thing you should do?
But it's also not just for dating.
Like, well, yeah. So there's other reasons. There's other reasons to do it.
And I think that's
one of the things that
teaches you something about women too, is that it's not just that. It's, I think they're also, or just dating is like, you're not just you know, if you do it just for that one purpose, one, I think you might take shortcuts, which could be damaging. But then two, I think you don't realize that part of what, in my experience, what many women have, you know, complimented me on working out is not because I, you know, there was a time when I looked more muscular. And I remember I looked in front of the gym with my girlfriend, or in front of the mirror with my girlfriend, and she's like, oh, cute. And she didn't really care that much. I could tell. And she's like, well, I think I'm actually more interested, or I like you more because you're passionate about it, not because of it. And so anyway, the underlying thing is like, if you start falling in love with things and you develop passions, including health, which I think is an important one we should all have, because you only have one body. That has so many other benefits than just like, oh, I go to the gym. Because you see this in bro culture, right? Like
we could go down the list of the reasons why it's good to, reasons why it can benefit you too. And, you know, going to the gym is something you and I have in common, but I don't mean to use that as like a frozen abstraction. I mean, like, when I think of getting in shape, I mean, like, learn a sport that you like or something. And
yes,
like,
that's how I think.
Join a softball league and like go to practice and like
something
run some more and do something physical and like, because, you know,
don't eat donuts every day.
Yeah, if you size up a young guy and he's like, why can't I meet a girl? Like, one of the things on the list is almost certainly going to be lose or gain 20 pounds.
Well, especially if you ask him, like, well, show me women you're attracted to.
Yeah.
Because like if
that's another thing.
Because like if he's attracted to a woman who's fit,
yeah,
then it's like, well, hold on. So if you're attracted to a woman that looked like you, then you probably have a good chance.
Right.
But if you are attracted to this stellar, you know, Olympic gymnast, like, why the hell? Like, but unless you're Elon Musk, like, what are you offering her?
That's the think about. That's, you know, related. That's a good example. That's a good example. So there's these so-called incel guys that involuntarily celibate. It's like, well, show me the kind of woman you would be uncelibate for, you know, and you're not going to get the female version of them.